Hi, my name is Chinaya Nze. Over the last decade, we've had tremendous amounts of growth in the fintech industry, especially with the adoption of digital payments. However, with this growth in digital payments, we've seen a lot of challenges and a lot of negativity too. One of it being the increase in fraud. So, address this issue with me today. I have with me the Chief Technology Officer of Remita, Mujib Ishola. Hello, Mujib.
Hello,
Thank you for joining us today.
glad to be here.
Now, as a fintech leader in the industry, how would you define fraud?
Fraud is simply unauthorized access to your funds through somebody else, a third party. So think of it as somebody just waking up one day, moving your monies without your knowledge. That's essentially what it is.
Wow, that's not good. I mean, how would you say these individuals have been able to execute this crime of recent times?
Okay, recently it's more about identity fraud. This is a situation where somebody else pretends to be you in order to gain access to your accounts or your other payments instruments. Identity fraud is on the rise, especially because these days you need more access using your things like NIN, BVNs, and the likes, and your card details to perform transactions with the advent of more people coming onto the e-payment channel side of things. Also, there's the payment fraud. Payment fraud essentially is moving on from the first one I said, which is identity fraud. Somebody pretends to be you, gets into your accounts and payment instruments, initiates a payment that is not authorized by you for whatever
Different reasons.
different reasons. So there's the identity fraud, there's the payment fraud, and there's the account takeover. The account takeover, many of us know this, especially if you're on social media and the rest of it. Your account gets taken over by some other individual aside from you, pretending to be you once more. It's also another way people commit identity fraud.
There's this word that we've been seeing a lot in a lot of fintech write-ups and blog, behavior analysis. What exactly is that?
Okay, behavior analysis is one of the methods in which fraud can be mitigated. So essentially, it's a way you use systems and algorithms to analyze the behavior of transactions and customers on payment platforms. So if you think about it as somebody that knows you well, right, analyzing how and when you perform your transactions. So for instance, if you would normally make payments or perform transactions, say 3 p.m. Every day, and all of a sudden you wake up at 12 midnight to perform a transaction, the systems in place that would detect that and then analyze that along with some other data to have a good guess as to whether that transaction is fraudulent or not.
Yeah, so you would say these are some of the abnormalities that this detects. Is there more?
There's more. I mean, there is a whole science behind it, right? There's a lot more points. It could be something as simple of as you logging in onto a platform and that being triggers something on a platform. It could be the value of your transaction, it could be the amount, it could be the frequency. There's a bunch of data points that can be analyzed to detect your behavior and your pattern on a certain platform.
Yeah. I mean, we know that Remita is one of the leading payment solutions company we have in Nigeria, even if not in Africa, I must say. How has Remita been able to, what are the policies that Remita has put in place to be able to, attack this vice that has become very common, this fraud vice? How would you say, what are the policies that?
Well, mitigation on Remita is we adopt a multi-layer approach to this, and obviously we started a long time ago, thereby a lot of learning. But we take a multi-layered approach where we have rule-based systems. We have your behavior analysis and AI behind backing a lot of things we do as well. So it's not one thing; it's a whole host of things. And on top of that, we also have a lot of learners within the space that has allowed us bring up a lot of innovation. Part of these innovations will be the DAN, which is the dynamic authentication number that we've had for a very long time now, and it's been quite successful at least making it difficult to for other people to get
Get in touch with
access
your account.
into your profile. There's the RRR as well. A lot of people know what the remitter retrieval
Definitely.
reference is. It's not so much about fraud, it's so much about at least knowing when things are happening. So every single payment on remitter uses the remitter retrieval reference as an identifier to identify a payment. Now, once you've identified a payment, now a merchant or a payer can then take that and verify on remitter if it is a legitimate transaction. One thing that has been happening over the years is observable behavior of systems. So, okay, I'm not going to go
Too
in deep,
technical. Yes.
but people observe how systems behave and systems react to certain things. People forge receipts these days. The remitter retrieval reference, right, makes this, a little bit more difficult for the bad actors to do, because you can always verify that.
Would you say this is different from the regular treasury deduction that has been done in the past? These policies, are they recent? Are they new?
Well, innovation, right, and evolution. So
Yes.
different, maybe not, but the next step in things. When we think of what we are doing these days, especially with the behavior analysis and the mainstreaming of AI these days, it's the next step, because now we have a lot more data to analyze, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about how you click on a particular portal, how you use the app, the time of day, even the weather, right? There's a whole host of data that you can bring together to analyze and kind of detect if a transaction is fraudulent or not. This vast amount of data, right, needs new techniques and new ways of utilizing that data. That's what's just happening. Ultimately, right, AI and behavior analysis ultimately comes down to rules as well. How should my system respond if a transaction goes above limit? How should my system respond if somebody logs onto my mobile app and the rest of it? So yeah, it's the next step in the way we do things as fraud detection goes.
You spoke about evolution, and I'm wondering, how do you see the evolution of fraud technology, fraud detection technology over the years? Do you think there'll be a lot of more positive policies that will make it harder for these individuals to be able to perpetrate these frauds?
Well, policies as it regards regulation will keep changing, right? Because there's a conversation around limit management as relates to transactions and what you can do. So that will be an ongoing thing, and it's not going to end. When it comes to the technology as well, it's going to keep going. Chips are getting faster in terms of processing times, and the amount of data you can process, they're getting even a lot more preemptive than reactive. What that means is, if you would typically use your mobile application between, say, a certain time, what we'll begin to see is maybe a reduction in the kind of transactions you can do past a certain time based on your own personal analyzed behavior. And we're going to see a lot more talk about financial literacy and the rest of it. There's a lot more people coming onto e-payments, and there's a lot to learn, right? The starting point of preventing fraud is providing the right information, let people knowing what is what, right? There's a lot of information out there, and fraud in itself is people just taking advantage of say lack of information or lack of access to certain data, right? So there's going to be a lot more conversation around financial literacy, app literacy, and the rest of it. We also know that there's a lot more the government is doing in terms of regulating the amount of apps coming out there and the rigor they have to go through before you can publish applications these days, right? We're going to be seeing a lot more with regards to that, and we're going to be seeing a lot more, in the technology space as well, where secure coding, secure application and environment are a thing right now, but there's going to be a lot more to it, because you now have AI in the mix. AI is not to be overlooked in any way, right? The power that puts in the hands of the bad actors, it's huge. So there's going to be a lot more training within that space as well.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. I hope to see Remita also leading this technology in future.
Definitely, we're leading it now.
Yeah,
we've been doing this for a while, so hey.
Thank you so much, Mujib. It's been very interesting having you. It's been a fantastic time on the show today with the CTO of Remita, Mujib Ishola. He's been able to properly educate us and inform us about fraud and the different strategies that different fintech companies are putting in place to ensure that we don't fall victims to these individuals out there. My name remains Chinoya Nze, and hope to see you next time.